Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to present to you 8 cookies inspired by breakfast at Tiffany's. Let's get started. We'll start with the key. We'll start by flooding the cookie. You'll want to be mindful of the edge because you want to leave enough room that you could put a border on it. Next, let's talk about stencils and stencil holders. This is the Genie. I like this one. It's a 5.5. Here's another one that I like, and I think it's by Sugar Bells. I'll have to check that for you. But it comes apart, and then you can make it any size that you like. Now to do the stenciling. You want to make sure to have a stiff consistency icing. I usually add extra powdered sugar to make it really stiff. And then I use this neat little, I don't know what it's called, applicator. And I think it's made by Sugar Bells also. Now for the border, I'm just going to add a simple little bead border to stay in theme with the Tiffany's. And I'm using a 1.5 tip made by PME. It's a seamless tip, so it helps, with the design staying in place. And also I have a little bit of a flood, like a thick flood, because I don't want to have to go back and tap down the tips of the beads. They'll just go ahead and fall into place. Next, we'll do Audrey Hepburn in one of her many poses. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say these are the intended amendments, but a lot of them are long.
Oh, right.
It described it. Excessive. Here's like amended 8. This is small. Excessive nails shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
Yeah, I read them all.
Powers not delegated to the U.S. by the Constitution are prohibited. Oh, you read them?
I did. That's what, because I was looking them up.
regulated militia. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the second one.
Yes, it is. Right. And next we'll do another Audrey Hepburn pose. This one is more of a shadow. Here I'll add 2 pearl beads to represent her necklace. Another Audrey pose. Now we'll do the Audrey face. Now we'll do a few strands of pearls to represent all the pearl necklaces that Audrey bought at Tiffany's. And then we'll just finish it with the bow on top. Now we'll do a silhouette of the beautiful long dress that Audrey wore in the opening scene of the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's. Okay, now we're going to do a stencil of this dress, but there's a piece that you have to be mindful of there between the legs. So I'm going to turn the stencil upside down so that when I make a sweep, my first sweep of the royal icing, I'm going to sweep that down, because if you go the other way, it's going to make the leg part pop up and it's going to fill in the whole thing and you'll lose your shape. Here I'm going to add just a few beads to make a pearl necklace like she wore in the movie. And here's the one you've been waiting for. This is the clutch. It has cross stitching, and I will show you just how to do that. I use sugar sheets. They're called Flex Frost sheets, and the company is Flex Frost. This is the ingredients list. I buy this from My Little Bakery on Etsy. She also has a YouTube channel where she shows you how to use it. I also buy this mat from her. It has you can use burlap, and I use it for the cross stitch, and that's what she uses it for too. You can do a whole sheet, or you can do the little round circles, and you start by cutting up your sheets of your Flex Frost. And then next you'll take the back off of each one of those little squares that you cut out. And then you dip each one in the water, and then you just take it out immediately and you place it on your mat. I do several at a time so that it can go ahead and soften. Just spread them around. And then I use this tiny spatula, and I just start going back and forth until you see that all the holes are filled. It just takes a little bit. If it seems clumpy, that's because it's still dissolving. It will loosen up as you go along. And since I'm only making a couple of cookies, I'm not going to use this on the whole mat. And I actually did do too much, and what is left over you can put in a Ziploc bag and seal it, and it lasts a long time. I have some that I actually put in December from Christmas cookies, and I pulled it out while I was getting ready to make this video, and it's still soft. So it as long as you have it sealed, it won't dry out. And once you get that all done, you want to just let that dry, probably about 2 or 3 hours, just on your counter. You don't have to put it in the oven or anything. And next I'm flooding my cookie that I'm going to be putting that on. Okay, it's been about an hour and a half, and as you can see, it's removing from the mat quite easily. And you go ahead and just remove that whole thing. Try to be slow. I did tear it because I was getting in a hurry, and you can see there, but it's not a biggie. You can cut around that. Now I'm going to place it on the cookie, and I'm going to measure it and cut it. You just use scissors. And you don't have to get it exactly the size of the cookie. Once you place it on the cookie with the water, then you can trim off the edges. And now I'll use a paintbrush and I will apply water. You don't want it real wet because that will melt your royal icing, but you want it wet enough for that sheet to stick on there. And as you can see, I have a little excess on the edges, but I just trim that off. Now for the fun stuff. We are going to cross stitch, and this is how I make my templates. I put a yellow X in the middle so that I can start in the middle of my cookie, and each square on the template represents a square on that fabric sheet that I put on there. And I'm going to use an edible marker to mark on my cookie where my starting point is. That is exactly in the center right there. And next I want to do the 4 in the center. And I'm going to start in the center and work my way out. I'm using Super Black by Americolor, and I want my icing to be not real floody. I want it to be kind of a stiff flood because I want it to hold that circle. And I'm going to have a very fine tip. I'm using a tipless bag, but I just barely cut it. And I'll start with my 4 dots in the center. As I put my dots in, I highlight in yellow. And that helps me keep up with the pattern. If you don't do that or develop some sort of system that you like, you can lose your place easy and then get it out of pattern. And this is a Houndstooth pattern. I think I forgot to mention that earlier. So since this is in rows, I'm going to start with the center row. From there, you may not even need your pattern. Usually when I get going on something that is the same pattern, after I do 1 or 2 of the little boxes, I usually can zip right through the rest of it. And you want to make sure that your circles or your dots don't touch each other, or they'll just run into each other and form a line. And that's why I want my flood to be pretty thick, because I don't want them to run into each other. But I want them to be runny enough that it doesn't leave any tips. I have a Patreon group on patreon.com, and I will leave the link in the description box. But if you become a patron to my Patreon, there is $1, $5, and $10 levels. You can donate whatever you'd like. Any donation is allowed to download all of my templates at any time. And I put on templates of these cross stitches, patterns, if you don't have the cutters, I do put patterns of the cutters so that you're able to download those, cut that out, and use that as your template to cut your cookie out. There's lots of good stuff on there, a lot of free stuff. If you're a patron, you also receive early access to my videos. When they're posted on YouTube, you will be able to view them before others. They'll be private and for several days for you to view, and then they'll go public. Also, there's videos on there that you will be able to access that other YouTubers can't. You have to strictly be a patron to access those videos. And this is the type of video that you will have access to, a video with a large cookie set to it. This one I'm offering free since I just started the Patreon to show you what it's like. So it's usually going to be about an hour-long video. So I'd like to see you join. There's also access to a private Facebook group that you are able to put pictures that you post, or that you make of your work on there. And also on some of the videos, I'll be doing shout outs to those of you that join and showing pictures of your work in some of my videos. So there's a lot of benefits to the Patreon. So check it out. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'd also like to let you know that we're doing a monthly stencil video. It's called Stencil of the Month Club, and that will be on YouTube every month, but it will also be on Patreon. And if you're a $10 a month donator, you receive the Stencil of the Month free. Every month it will just automatically ship out to you if you're on that level. So check that out too. And this and the Stencil of the Month this month is the Breakfast at Tiffany's, and it's a large set. You'll receive every stencil that you see in this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate your likes, your subs, and your shares. And as always, I love all of you and look forward to seeing you back. I had fun making this video for you, and I look forward to making many, many, many more. And as always, if you have any questions or would like to see me make anything in particular, just comment below. I read all of my comments and I try to answer all comments, which I usually do. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.